So our speaker right now is Steve Hammer. Steve is a Google Ads, PPC, Google Tag Manager specialist, or expert, I should say. He is co-founder of Hammer, which has recently hit his 10th year. So let's give it up a big hand for Steve and his subject, No One Wants to Write a White Paper.
Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm going to start off with a story. One of our clients, we were having a conversation with them, and the first thing they were saying to us, they're like, you keep showing us all this great data about all this performance, but I'm not getting any leads out of this. And at the time we were using CallRail, you could have been using any popular call tracking software that's out there, and fortunately, this one recorded things. I started listening to the calls. And I'm going to change the names a little bit to protect the innocent and the like. But so these guys targeted architecture firms. Get on the call and start listening to it. They were using a call screening service. And the gentleman on the call starts talking. He's like, hey, I've got some CAD drawings here. I'd like to submit this so you guys can do a quote for me. Can you connect me with a sales rep? Literally, those words come out of his mouth. There is no stronger buying signal in the world than for someone to say to you, I am ready for a quote. Connect me with a sales rep. And so this call screening service starts off the call. Okay, well, that's great. Let me get some information down first. How large is your company in millions of dollars? He's like, I want a sales rep. I'm ready to buy. Says those words on the phone. How many parking spaces would you say you need? It's in the CAD file. It's right there. And she keeps hammering through all of the things that were on her screener list. And while screening for a lead to make sure it's qualified is a phenomenal thing to do, blindly following it, it turns out, is not so great. Because after asking about 6 or 7 of these questions, the gentleman on the line said, you know what? I was comparing you to your 2 other competitors. Now I'm just going to compare those 2. Thanks, goodbye. And that was the end of it. So let alone did they not read the lead, they didn't even get the lead. Now, from my perspective, right, as a PPC, that was somebody that clicked on an ad, had a call that was longer than a minute, and then some. They looked like a wonderful lead to me. And however, unfortunately, to them, that didn't even get sent to a sales rep. So it didn't look like a lead at all to them. And as I listened to more and more of these calls, I realized how bad their call screening service was. It was horrible. And after having a conversation with my rep there, we started to dive into more and more of their sales processes and get into more and more of the stuff. And it started to really ignite a passion with me. Now, apparently, I'm sales. Sorry, I'm still a marketer at my core, but I had to get and learn how to do the sales process because of a client that I would have lost, quite frankly, if I didn't go to that next level and really push my way through. So I'm here to sales, finger guns are going. We are here to, what's it gonna take to put you in to that CRM system by the end of this. Now, who am I really? As mentioned in the beginning, my name is Steve Hammer. I am an insane foodie. I literally will plan the meals that I eat months and months in advance of any conference I'm going to. Any of you that know me know this is absolutely the case. And I just got back from a whole trip up the Eastern Seaboard, which was planned to the same level, including getting to do a bucket list restaurant for my birthday, which was Le Bernardin. Ask me about that later. I'm a parent of 3 children. This is one of them. That's my daughter, Veronica, who it has a bit of a spirit. They all play hockey, and I'm very passionate about hockey, both on the youth level and the professional level. Go Stars. And I'm not even supposed to be here today for those of you that get that joke. Just, hockey in general is a big thing. And then I run this firm called Hammer. And as mentioned, we do a lot of PPC, we do SEO, we do pretty much the full suite of digital marketing. And I have some pretty strong beliefs about the way we should do that in terms of being consultative, not executional. And that's one of the reasons that I took that level of going into the sales process so that I could understand it better. Because if I didn't do that, like I said, I would have lost a client if I just said, you know what, I delivered a click, that's my job, we're done here. That's been successful enough that we've managed to make 10 years this year, an accomplishment I am very, very proud of. As marketers, we have a tendency to look at things in a very particular way. We want to get leads into the database if we're in any sort of lead generation. That's what we do. That's our job. We're going to do, whether it's SEO, whether it's PPC, whether it's, social media marketing, the you name it, has one thing on focus. So what are we going to put out there to get someone to give them our email so that we can pound them relentlessly like we are a ruthless car dealer? What is it going to take? So that's where everyone's famous lead magnet starts to come in, the white paper. And I am here to guarantee to you that no one in the world woke up in the morning wanting to download a white paper for anything that they are doing. Period. It's never happened in the history of the universe. The problem with the white paper, while great in terms of demonstrating our technical capabilities or thought knowledge or anything like that, we gate the daylights out of them, we give them the information that they need, but at the end of the day, they don't really want to read it. They have a very simple thing that they want to accomplish. We get into this trap a lot. As marketers, it's not about the customer and what their problem is. It's really, did you see how awesome our stuff is? Here's this white paper. And why don't you tell me about how good the white paper is? Or anything else that we're doing, whether it's an infographic or you name it. We get extremely narcissistic about it. So it's not about them. It becomes about us. And that's bad marketing by definition. Any marketing that's just about us, not about them, is getting it wrong. And that creates a problem, in both ways. The real issue that a customer comes to us wanting to get a white paper that gives us their information is they have a problem they want to solve. And until we get the problem solution model, we're going to continue to have a problem where there's going to be a disconnect between what we want to offer them to get them in our database and what we're going to get from them in terms of what it is that we do. It's incredibly important for us to think as back to being good basic marketers and trying to solve their problem in the best way possible. And I guarantee it's not always a white paper. At the end of the day, we started talking to some of our customers that were using the standard lead magnet white paper thing. And the first call, I had the sales reps ask, did you read what you downloaded? Did you read it? Did you even open it? Less than half did. They were actually interested in going further along the process by that point. They'd done enough research on the company that they realized they were at least in the right zone to talk to somebody by the point that they downloaded the white paper, and that was the only way they could find to get the interest. Because, as a great PPC, you don't give them anywhere else to go on the page. You make sure that they're going to fill out that form. That's the only choice they had. Less than half actually read the white paper, but were actually interested in being contacted. Give people that chance if they need it. Now, here's a few things about customer relationship management systems that I want to make sure that we're covering, both myths and truths, some of which are difficult. When you're implementing a system like this or doing anything with it, it's not going to fix stupid. If you have really, really bad products, you're just spending more money to promote bad products. If your business model's off, you're going to be able to sell those $20 bills for $15 that much faster. And that's not a good thing. So make sure before you even start thinking about how you'll manage post-lead clicks that you've got a good business model in the first place. I've seen that happen way too many times. Secondly, CRM systems can be daunting. This is Zoho, when you're onboarding from Zoho. If any of you guys have used Zoho, that's supposed to be, the ho in that is home office. Home office. That's scary as hell. There's like 50 modules that you can potentially have to do, and it's supposed to theoretically be for small businesses. It is a daunting thing. I will say the onboarding systems have gotten a lot better than when I first started doing this, but at the end of the day, implementing a CRM in any way, shape, or form, or transforming yourself from one to the other, it's an effort. So I'm not going to sugarcoat that at all. Secondly, I swear these people do not speak English that are selling CRM systems. They do the best buzzword bingo I have ever seen. I'm going to just quickly, y'all in the back probably can't see this. Empower your sales teams with AI-driven insights and tailored recommendations so that they can leverage best practices to increase revenue. Is that English? That's not English. I'm pretty sure it's not. That's from Salesforce, the biggest and the baddest and the smartest in the industry theoretically, like 25% of the market space, and that's not English. It is so full, so ripe and full of buzzwords, things that these people have made it. It's very difficult to compare feature sets from one another. And I swear, as you look at the menus, like I was looking at Salesforce menu, I don't think I put it on here. I can't remember if I did or not. No, everything that they even call things, sales enablement, and these are not words that I use to describe things. It's, you know, as an SEO, I look at those things, and it's all too cute by half. It's like more than like too cute by 3/4. It's so far gone. I'm like, I have to like think for 5 minutes if do I want sales enablement or lead empowerment, or just could we work with something that makes sense? And this is the way the sales team is going to look at implementing any CRM system that you do. So once we get past all of these things, they are going to think it exists for one reason: to track them and all the activities that they're doing. Because 9 times out of 10, that's why it gets done and why it gets installed in the first place. Is my sales team being efficient or not? It's answered by CRM systems. So there's a lot of natural opposition within sales teams to implementing CRM systems. You got to get over that. Here's the other part of the reality, though. That starts at 2014, ends at 2025 at this end. CRM is a massively growing industry. It's not going away. At the end of the day, over 10 years, there's going to be 4 times as many CRM implementations as there are right now, assuming everything's priced the same. It's a massive thing, and it's in all sorts of industries, including really small ones. My tiny agency uses a small CRM system. Guess what? And it really helps me be able to sell to people so that I understand what's going on. It's a way that if any of your clients or any of your folks are not on it, it's time to get on it because it's not going away. CRM at the core is a business operating system. And if you do it right, it can become the center of your entire hub of your front-end sales process. And I'm going to go through some details of exactly how that happens. It can do some really, really powerful things and become your system of record, even beyond what we used to use in GA or other things like that. By the way, that means no GA4, you're welcome. Here's a piece of modern reality. There's 2 things that have been going on since COVID in a very big way. And especially cloud-based CRM systems are great at getting around these problems. The first, people are more mobile than ever in terms of jobs. They quit a lot, in a hurry, with no notice. In the old world, that would happen. You'd have a few weeks to transition to a new employee. That new employee may be anywhere in the United States, or it may be that you can't even find somebody to replace them for several weeks, and you've just lost your opportunity to transition all of that sales team's institutional knowledge, that salesperson's institutional knowledge, to the next person. That's a big deal. CRM fixes that because it's a permanent record of everything that's gone on, regardless of whether the rep still works for you or not. Second thing, remote work. It's entirely possible that you may have sales reps working, one in New York, one in San Francisco, one in Dallas, one in Montana. And as you pass things back and forth for people that are specialized in certain areas, it's in a remote work sort of situation, it's much harder to do. Having a cloud-based CRM sort of system, again, solves that problem because it's a centralized repository. You can get this sort of information, and a lot of the examples I'm going to be using are HubSpot. Obviously, there's a ton of these. I'm not selling HubSpot by any stretch, but it's an easy one to see, and a lot of us have access to it, and there's a free version too. You get this sort of thing where multiple sales reps can be contacting with somebody, get the full list of what's going on in the system, no matter where they are, which is great for following up with folks and making sure that you know what's going on, and that somebody who bounces into the middle of this doesn't have to relearn. You don't have to have that 30-minute meeting just to tell them everything that you've discussed in the past. It's a fantastic sort of experience. There's a reason, a very big reason that Salesforce paid, a few $1 billion to buy Slack. It's so they can integrate this sort of tracking into Slack directly without having, to go off of, information, and you could have basically one platform. It goes back to that operating system where everything this becomes the hub for everything to go into. Slack is a part of that. So if you can track your Slack conversations without having to go to somewhere else, it's a fantastic tool. CRM unlocks two things at its core if you're doing it right. The first is reporting. The second thing is automation. Your Salesforce is going to hate the reporting until they really get into it, and they're going to love the automation. So if you're implementing one of these for the first time or transitioning into a better one, sell the automation. But we'll talk about both. It's not just this. This is a standard report that you get out of HubSpot, and I'm sorry, it's small. View the number of calls, meeting, tasks, notes, and emails of each of your reps or teams as logged or sent. See who has the highest recorded activities. Yeah, reps don't like that. Reps don't like that at all, nor should they. No one wants that level. And what you can't tell is this, there are only 15 activities there on Wednesday, but they're almost all calls. And those calls may have been 2-hour calls. It doesn't tell you that. So, your rep will push back with that, and they should, frankly. You don't want to be these guys when you're implementing the system. So, how many calls would you say you did this week? They already know the answer. Don't do that. This is the power of what you can potentially do, is look at your funnel and break it down into every sort of way that you want to do in terms of what the life cycle is, and look at their net conversion into a process. And then you can continue this down into evangelists, people that have told other people about your company, or break into marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads into various categories. So I'll have an example that I like better than this one, but this one had data, so that's what you get. You can break this into as many steps as you want. So, you're getting 36% conversion into your marketing qualified leads. That's is that a good thing or a bad thing? Compare things over time. These are powerful. And if there's one thing that when you start doing marketing, especially for a new SaaS sort of company, the first people that they get are people that they know or found out about them, or we're at a conference and they've already had conversations, so they're already prepped. Versus the folks that come in later from more outbound types of marketing, they're going to take a lot longer to convert. They're going to go through a lot more steps as the process goes in. So your ability to compare and look at those by channel, it's all there. It's all in that system. And I more and more have started advocating that at the end of the day, I'd rather take reporting out of my CRM system that's going to give me all the data that's not only where did it come from, but did it convert to an actual sale, than the kind of data we get out of Google Analytics or PPC, where it's just, did we get them to fill out the form and make a checkbox in the lead form of things? It's not enough anymore. We need to take it to the full level of things. If we're doing it right, we can also use the information of the people we didn't sell to guide our product development. Real customer data right here. We got disqualified or lost some of these things, but why did we lose them? The customers that tell us, if we start popping that information into things, well, it doesn't support HIPAA. So I know I can't sell to medical units until that, and I see that over and over again. I guess it's probably time to develop a HIPAA thing. And that reporting is there no matter what the rep is, no matter no matter what they're seeing. And they may not see it as a pattern unless you put it all together. You got 10 sales reps, one out of 5 ends up losing deals because of HIPAA. They see that as one out of the 5 lost it, but that's across everybody. All of a sudden, that's 10 deals you lost because of it, because every single rep had the same sort of thing, and they're not going to see the pattern unless you put it together like this. It's great data that feeds back into the system in a way that gives you a chance to guide future product development and see what you've missed. Your channel performance isn't just to leads, and that's important. Your channel performance can be to who actually was a marketing qualified lead, who was a sales qualified lead, how much revenue did we get out of this? You can go to as deep a level in most of these things as you want, especially if you're feeding that data back in. You'll notice I say feeding that data back in over and over again. If there's one failure that ends up happening in CRM systems, it's that you don't put all your data into it. If you don't put it's just we won, that's great. But if we won for this much per month, or we won for this much per year, or this much of a project, that's way better data for the system. And believe me, it's exciting to hit the one. But if you fill in the rest of the information, it's way more useful for everybody. So getting people to comply in terms of putting all their data in is key. And again, you can compare these things over time in terms of what things are getting. Is organic search performing as well as we think it is in terms of leads? We can see the traffic, that's one thing, but what leads are we getting out of it, and are those leads converting or not is a huge factor. We can also compare what we estimate we're going to get to what we actually get. Any sort of report you can think of, it's really easy to build custom reports in these systems. This is a super example of one. How long did it take to close? What's the average closed amount, and how much was the total close? And you can see trends really quickly over time. The blue here is the average closed amount. So they're starting to close bigger deals. That's huge for a company. Even though the total number is not going up, you can see a change in the strategy literally right here, where they started to go from, okay, we're just gonna take what we can get, to we're gonna push for the bigger ones and see what happens. In those last 3 months, everything ends up going off way better, even though they had to sacrifice a couple months in the process. That's literally the change in strategy that's going on with this company, illustrated in graph form. This sort of data is not only powerful to your sales team, it's hugely powerful to your marketing team, because now you can see what the segmentation is for some of these folks and what they're doing, who's converting now, and how can I target them better. Traditional analytics has a problem. And CRM type of analytics are a little bit different. Traditional analytics stands at one point and watches the people go by. Right? This is my home page, and they went on to that page over there. And there's not necessarily a connection between the person that was on that home page and then went to the second page, where there's another observer over here on the second page looking for what's going on here, and they said, okay, they came from the home page, and then they went off to that third page. CRM tracking is a lot more like the annoying Best Buy salesman that follows you around. Are you ready? Are you ready to buy now? Do you need help? Is there anything I can do to help you out? Are you sure there's nothing I can do to help you out? Because I get paid by helping you out, and I'd really like to help you out. And then you come in the next day and they're like, hey, you were in here yesterday, and I tried to help you out then. Are you ready to be helped out now? CRM follows people around. And most systems place a cookie right away. As long as people are using the same device, if they convert on a third or fourth visit, you'll actually start to populate the information for their first and second visit, or however long your cookie persistence is. So what that means is that following around that annoying Best Buy individual saw where they actually came in from, rather than just sort of looking as they come by. Yes, traditional analytics sets cookies too, and you can do some level of this, but it's way more detailed here. And that's a real power of the analytics, because it's focused on what individuals do. Bad news, will this persist forever? Will tracking cookies and the lack thereof kill this? I don't know, but at least as it is right now, it's pretty awesome. The original source of people that came in and the quality of what they do is something you can really build out. One of the things I love compared to Data Studio or anything like it, when I'm building up a GA4 dashboard, I do it in Data Studio. These things are updated as you're making changes, at least on HubSpot. So if I start putting count of contacts and original source, I'm seeing my data in real time adjust itself. I can ask and answer, bless you, a lot of the same questions that I would want to find my way through, put my comparisons in there and see it happen immediately, rather than having to save and go back out and actually do what I wanted to do. No, it didn't. Let me try it again. As somebody who is way more of a poke and prod kind of individual, this is phenomenal. Also, again, particularly based in HubSpot, there's a whole series of reports that are already built in based upon the question that you're asking. And that's the way that they build them out. And I think it's hugely helpful, especially for smaller businesses, to what are the content pieces that, this is a literal question that's in their pre-built reports. What are the content pieces that are delivering me the most leads? That's the way upper management would ask the question, right? And then we as data analysts have to kind of figure out what that means and how to put that together. Well, guess what? That's built in. They have the question, you push the button and you're done. The other thing that can really be done with these, which is awesome, is dynamic lists. So dynamic lists allow you to segment based upon people coming in and out of things over time. So you could, for example, segment one of these based upon, say, 10 page views in the last 30 days. So who's really active on your site and what are they doing? And can I see if that activity on the site is converting them into to leads or other things that are like that? If you build up those active lists, they repopulate. So somebody that goes from 10 page views in the last 30 days that had a real burst of activity, 30 days later, they roll off, they're not on the list anymore. Somebody that maybe just keeps poking around every couple of days is going to eventually find their way onto the list, even though they weren't there originally. And that gives you that opportunity to really be able to analyze and figure out what it is that they're doing. And again, whatever the objective is that they might be converting into for powerful things. So this is a model that I tend to find useful, and whenever possible, I try to implement this. Most people right now are thinking in terms of sales qualified leads and marketing qualified leads and all that kind of good stuff. But this is how I qualify those leads, to figure out where they make sense. It's called the BANT model, for those of you that may have not have heard of it. My banter. BANT stands for budget. How much money do they have for this project? Is it something that's going to make sense? Can we fit it in? And it's important, I think, in a lot of cases, to not only understand if they have the amount of money that you need, but what percentage of their business is that. The person that's going to spend, $2,000 a month with you on something, but it's 20% of their revenue, is going to be a very different person than the person that's going to spend even 5 times that, but it's only 1% of their revenue. So qualifying based upon that is one very powerful thing. Second, is the person you're talking to have the authority to make decisions on this? That's the A. Are they the boss? Are they the decision maker? Are they the influencer? And who do you need to get in the room to make sure that you're able to make this decision? Again, on a smaller business, they may be the chief bottle washer and the CEO. On a larger business, you may have to go through 13 layers and make 14 meetings before that happens. And what are their needs? What are their goals? What are they trying to accomplish with what it is that they're doing? These are all things, by the way, to put in the CRM system as custom fields. And no matter what, if your sales rep leads, you'll have this information. Why are they doing this whole project? Why are they contacting you? And is there a fit? That'll help you scale and know what it is to tell them about your product or process or whatever else. And then time. What's the timeline? Are they in a hurry? Are they not in a hurry? Are they evaluating 50 people or are they evaluating 1? If you get all this information, That's a great way to qualify and know that lead has that information. And if you encourage your sales reps to start baking these sort of questions in to the CRM system, you can start pulling that data out to see, okay, well, in large budget projects, we don't do as well. In hurried up projects, we do great. In those sorts of things in terms of what the qualifying factors are. You can start pulling data quite like this. And again, while life cycle stage isn't the way I would want it to be, this is a good example of how much context sometimes you have to have with somebody before they convert. Nectaros down there has been contacted 107 times, has been on the site 214 times, 388 page views. He's been a little bit involved with this decision, but guess what? He's a customer. So at the end of the day, if he's super involved, that's not a bad thing. This leads into lead scoring and other things that can be done along that line, which I frankly probably don't have time to do. But the more involved people are, the more likely it is that they're going to convert to a customer. You can start to break down what that actual line is when they're likely to be involved by looking at data like this. Same by putting the banter data in there or other things that are along that line. It's a really powerful way to kind of come back at what it actually takes. Most people say that a large scale, or at least a decent scale purchase for a decent sized company, meaning, in the tens of millions of dollars, takes 8 to 10 people to make that decision. It can take hundreds of visits. Nectaros down there is not an unusual dude, even though it seems like it in this space. And one of the beautiful things is, I know it's Nectaros every time he comes because of the way the CRM system works. That's, again, a very powerful thing, and you know who it is that you're talking to. That data is unbelievably invaluable. And again, you can assign tasks straight out of this. So if you need the sales engineer or you need somebody who's way more technical to answer a question than your sales rep, it can be assigned directly out of the CRM system to the next person that might be involved. An entire record of all of the potential contacts and other things that you've done. You can actually see, if you're using the CRM system as your email system, which you should, what you sent them, and be able to break that up because of it. Now, one of the more powerful things, anybody get this? Anybody know who this is? Anybody? Is anybody old enough and punk enough to know this? Fishbone. This is Fishbone. Fishbones are the key to making all of this happen, especially when it comes to automation. So as we start to learn our way through, I knew no one would get that. There's a t-shirt in the back that the one dude is wearing that's the Fishbone logo. But other than that, yeah, this is worth a shot. We can take the information that they give us and do something with us and start to break that into where they follow. This is a competitor of one of our clients, which does this better than my client, so I use theirs. If you have an industry page and they click on aerospace and defense, they just told you some very, very valuable information that you should be using. Even if they haven't necessarily converted yet, when they make that conversion, even if it's on a generic page, they've told you they're in the aerospace and defense industry. They've told you they're in the education industry. So now you can tailor your offering enough by looking at what they've actually done on your site to give them the right case study, to give them the right information, to give them the right application of what it is that you're doing. Use it and build up these sort of diagrams. Okay, they clicked on aerospace, so I'm putting them in the aerospace dynamic group because of that. And the first thing I'm going to do when they convert is I'm going to send them a testing case because that's the most likely one. I don't know that they're into testing, but I'm going to make a guess. And it's going to be a testing case that's based upon the fact that it's an aerospace sort of thing. So it's going to relate exactly what it is. Now, if they click on that and they download it, I'm going to show them the product at that point that is my testing product for aerospace and just keep them walking down the path that they need to go. If they didn't even open it, I probably sent them the wrong thing. They're not looking for testing. Let's try an ROI-based case and how we can save money or do something along that line. Or if they opened it but didn't download it, maybe I was wrong about them being in the aerospace industry, and I'll try another testing case that's outside. These diagrams can get massively complicated, which is why they look like fishbones when you get right down to it. But building these sort of flowcharts and then sending them into separate patterns is, again, one of the keys. This is the part that is really powerful for your sales team at the end of the day, because they don't have to think about any of this. At some point of it, they're going to get to the point where they get sent the 5500 product, and they're going to say, schedule a demo, and that's when the sales team has to get involved. All that lead qualification can basically be done by automation. Unfortunately, this gets abused, and you can see it in your own inboxes, I'm sure. Hey, I was talking to my boss and thought that you might be interested in that. That's all based out of this kind of same crappy automation, but it's done without actually knowing what your customer wants or if they even ever want to hear from you. Thanks, spammers. That's the way that works. It's the same thing, but this is smart and based upon what your audience is actually doing. And the more information you get out of your users, the more you can tell. So if you know that they're in aerospace, you can add them to this workflow no matter what ends up occurring. Whether it's clicking on that, whether it's clicking on an email, whether it's a conversation with a sales rep, you can start adding them into these various flows and various points in the fishbone regardless of where they end up. This is a real example in the middle of one of them. They do something, you delay for an hour, then you send them an email, you wait an hour and see, did they book a demo out of that? If they did, then you follow this other thing, you make sure that they fill out a form so you're ready and you do the right thing in the demo. If they didn't, then you bug them again and work your way down. And then it continues like for all kinds of potentials that can go into that space. This is the automation and one of the most beautiful things about any good CRM system. If you care and you know your audience well enough that you can do the same things over and over again, do it with automation rather than doing it manually. I usually like to ask the sales reps, what do you do 3 times a day? Then what do you do 2 times a day? What do you do every week? And start automating based upon that. In other words, the things that they're doing quite frequently, I send a follow-up email a day after. Okay, well, let me just automate that. You can do that. If they put in the call that they had that, you can say, had a call, time delay, 1 week, follow-up, meeting request, blah. It's all possible within these systems. And those dynamic lists, again, back to the reporting, can be used here. So as people fall in and fall out, they can find their way through it. It's very powerful. Now, one of the other cool things you can do within this is augment it by external tools. This is an external tool I happen to like very, very much. This is a tool called Lead Feeder. Their site sucks. It's terrible. Like it doesn't tell you anything. Back to that buzzword bingo of please tell me what it is that you do in common language and how it makes sense. Here's the reality of what these guys do. They're pairing up the IP addresses of visitors to the site, and then they're looking at their own database of references because with an IP address, you know what company it came from. They're looking at do they have information about this? Do they have what size is the company? All those sorts of things, and they give that to you before they convert. That's an amazingly powerful thing, and particularly when you see, and they also give it lead scoring right within the system to tell you they had 2 visitors. It's not just one guy from the company that came, it's 2. So that tells you that maybe somebody was looking at something, passed it along to their boss, and then they went to look at it. That's way more valuable than somebody who just came once. And maybe that person visited 8 pages. But when you have 2 different visitors or 3 different visitors or 5 different visitors from a company, it tells you a completely different thing about what they're doing on your site. And again, as HubSpot or any other thing that's integrated with it starts to get it, they go from person 1 to whomever to Ted or whoever that person was as it fills out that information. This is fantastic for account-based marketing. If you happen to know and have a number of target clients that you're going after, you put them into this system and you know when they came. So now you can start following up or pushing on them, even if they didn't fill out that lead form or do anything along that line. And that's, again, a really powerful notion of a way to look at things. You can also push these, even if they don't convert, into HubSpot, so you can start tracking the activity of these companies before they convert. Are they constantly active on your site, or are they not? Even if it's a number of people that are doing it. Remember that 8 to 10 people before a major decision is made. You may need that many to make that conversion set. And this can tell you that even if they never download a white paper, even if they never fill in your lead magnet. And by the way, in many cases, this is a small company, so they wouldn't have it. But in large companies, they may have some contact information. You can dial these guys up directly. Start bugging them. Well, no one loves that. Sorry, we got to sell things sometimes. We can't just sit back and wait for things to happen. Yeah. Lead feeder. And they also send you this email, which I love getting. We identified these companies. Here's the first 3 companies we identified that had the most activity. It's not terribly expensive. And again, it integrates. This takes what the core power of that CRM system was able to deliver and now pushes the next thing into it before they converted. They didn't have to download the stupid white paper that they didn't want anyway. Hard to beat that. Big fan of these guys. You can also use your CRM system after the sale, and I highly recommend this. One of my clients uses it as a ticketing system for all the requests that they have for maintenance. And while I had to block out what they're actually doing for this, you can see if you have a bunch of things in one category that's constantly a ticket, maybe you need to fix something on your product. Again, this data feeds back into where you're getting common requests. Categorize these things, get the data, and then process it back so that you know what you're doing. Also, it can tell you whether that customer is profitable or not, because if they're constantly pestering you for little fixes here and there, they may not be profitable at the end of the day. And you can see that this one, XYZ company used so much of your resources that even though they were a 5-figure-a-month client, they ended up being unprofitable because you had to do so much extra work for them. So in summary, real quick, CRM, that's how you get things to happen after the lead. In today's world, unfortunately, we're losing control in PPC. We're responsible for understanding how AI is going to affect our SEO. All of these other things, we have less control than ever. And we can't be the ones anymore that just say, I delivered you the lead, I'm done. We need to, if we're going to be effective business consultants, we actually need to take it to the next level and take it as far as the business needs to go. And particularly with lead generation, this can be really powerful. Cloud is an anywhere, anytime power. Most good CRM systems are way better than an Excel database or other crappy systems that we use, and it allows for the remote ephemeral workforce to be solved for, which is a huge thing. The data unlock can power our product management, it can power our marketing decisions, it can feed audiences back into PPC or social media marketing or anything else that's out there. But the real power is also obviously in the custom reports. Asking the basic questions and having people help out with that is amazing. It's one of the things, and I'm not pimping myself in this regard mostly, having someone that knows their way around the system that can build up custom reports for you is a really powerful thing. It's worth doing, simple as that. Same for automation. The real power of this is getting your sales reps so that they don't have to do the mundane shit they don't like to do anyway. It's giving them the power to get to the point where they can be on the phone call, give them the finger guns, and actually make the sale rather than having to constantly do and remember to do follow-ups. And by the way, with the information that's in there, if it's used religiously, like you can enter people's birthdays, you can enter what their wife's name is, you can enter what their pet's name is, what their children, if they're into hockey, all that information. So if all of a sudden, Sally leaves your team and Ted has to pick it up, Ted doesn't have to have all those conversations again. If you want to send him a birthday card, it's right there to do. And like I said, it augments, but it opens up marketing opportunities you can't get at otherwise. If people don't convert, it's always been the biggest problem. How do I know that Chase Bank was interested in me if they don't download my stupid white paper because they didn't need it? Well, you get something like Leadfeeder, and there's dozens of things like that. It can give you that opportunity to know, okay, Chase was interested. They just didn't convert. I didn't give them the right interesting thing to do so. So let me see if I can follow up and make that happen. So I do want to thank you guys for your time. I appreciate being here. It's always a real honor, and I'll leave some time for some questions.
Thank you, Steve. We have time for 2 questions. So if you'll raise your hand, I will come to you with a mic. Okay.
Okay, so do you actually build out these flow maps in terms of first touch, second touch, testing all of that? And if so, what platform do you use? Do you do it for all of your clients?
Yeah, at least for us, we use either like a Gitmind sort of thing, or what's the other one? Lucid, yeah, Lucid's great for it. Needless to say, I've been using Gitmind more, but both do basically the same thing. Those are great because obviously they get big really fast, and allow you to dig into those. And usually, as you can see from that was a Lucid one, I think. If you start with the dash lines and you have some consistent nomenclature, you'll know you're launching into another part of the fishbone where you can get at things. So definitely those sorts of tools are great. Trying to build them in any conventional software, like trying to build them out of an Excel or a PowerPoint sort of thing, they can't handle it. It's way too big for that. We've also used Balsamiq to do basically the same thing. Any of those seem to work. Balsamiq I don't use as much because it's not cloud-based anymore. Absolutely, that's one of the keys of understanding what it is, but we're also suggesting what it is that they might need to build in. Very too few of initial clients when we're doing a consultation have the choose your own adventure sort of thing that I like to say. Let people pick their industry. If they want to give you that data, take it. And so they don't have that necessarily built out, or they break their product lines by product, not by the problem that they're solving. So it's not a networking sort of thing, like routing versus backbone versus that sort of thing. So if you break it into versus software versus testing versus that sort of thing, so we usually have to build in where there's stuff missing very often. I don't have any socks to throw. Sorry. You definitely don't want mine. They were wet earlier when I was walking over.
I currently work at an employment agency. Well, I see this like basically on the B2C side. I work for B2B. Now I was wondering if there's like do you know of any integration with applicant tracking systems as of right now? Because I can see how this could be used for some of our clients to pretty much track like leads and follow up with them a whole lot easier than what they're doing through their current ATSs.
Interesting. No, I don't know that specific application. My guess would be that there would be something out there. If not, it would be something that would be very possible to do in terms of either Zapier type of integration where you're pushing out to something else, or within the system itself, depending. You can have multiple users with all these sorts of things. So sometimes with just very limited views or very you can be the central hub. If you had Cisco and Chase, Cisco would only see Cisco, Chase would only see Chase, kind of thing, just based on the permissioning. So you could even build that within your own silo if you needed to. It's a cool idea, no doubt about it. I would say most systems probably have something, but it may take a Salesforce-y type of. Sorry, every time I say that, there's a little back of my throat there. Salesforce is a Ferrari, but if you ever driven a Ferrari, you know why I say that. It's huge and it's beautiful and it's gorgeous and can do everything you can ever imagine. And driving it on the road is impossible. But it's also got tons of integrations like that.